All of you I Can Do Anything podcast listeners. This is your host, Robin Steckel. Today we are talking to Kim Krapcha about nutrition, holidays, traveling, vacation, and anything else that disrupts our day. Welcome to the podcast, Kim.
Thank you so much for having me, Robin. We have a lot to talk about today.
We do. We do. I've got a whole agenda for you.
Oh,
For
gosh.
our listeners that are not on YouTube, but are listening through the typical podcast, I have a picture behind me of this was at Epic Systems in Verona, Wisconsin, and it is a huge buffet table behind me. I thought it was appropriate for the holidays coming up and the big buffet tables. And behind Kim is, I'm going to go over probably 100 medals behind her. And to all of my dedicated loyal listeners, a 29029 red bib and red hat, which all of my listeners know what that means, and just a beautiful office. So very excited to talk to you, Kim.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And I hope
Okay.
I pronounced your name correctly.
Krapcha, yes, you did. I was like, this is fantastic.
All right, diving into nutrition, especially around the holidays and going into 2025. Somebody like myself, I'm 55 years old. I've been around the block several times. I've done just about every diet underneath the sun. But nutrition is always something that comes around all the time. Talk to my girlfriends about constantly. What's good? What's bad? You hear about things that you should avoid for holidays or that you should do prior to going to gatherings. I mean, we could talk about this for hours. As a nutritionist, why don't you give a little bio about yourself and your certifications, and then let's get into some do's and don'ts around the holidays to begin with.
Sure. So, registered dietitian, number one. And then I'm also a RRCA road running coach. I am a precision nutrition level 1 nutrition coach as well. And then lastly, I am a CrossFit level 1 trainer. So all of the things, fitness and nutrition. So I could probably talk for hours about anything you want to talk about. We can deep dive, we can shallow, all the things. But the holidays are probably one of my favorite and worst topics because I think there's a lot of guilt that comes into the holidays in regards to nutrition. I think people really, if you're in that whole holiday party, everyone's got cookies and candies and cakes. People either feel like they can't eat any of it or they feel like they're a bad person if they eat part of it. So it's the holiday season is stressful enough as it is because you've got to, figure out where you're going to go, who you're going to see, bring the kids, do this, all of the planning. And then now you're trying to figure out how to fit into your pants with all of the amazing food around it. So it's not the best time to try to start to restrict your eating, but a lot of people do. And you'll see people starve themselves before they go to a holiday party. And it's just like, now you're just getting your body ready to eat a bajillion calories because you haven't given it anything all day. So of course it's hungry. Of course you're going to overeat and eat everything on your plate and probably a second plate because you haven't eaten all day. So now you're trying to pack 1,200 to 2,000 calories in a one seating. That's not the way to go. I encourage all of my clients to eat regular breakfast, balanced meals. And then drink fluids throughout the day, hydrate themselves. We don't want to starve ourselves before we go to dinner. And my clients, depending on how they are, if they're performance based, they're probably a little bit more meticulous about what they're going to eat. They might even bring their own food, honestly, to a holiday party. If my clients are just aesthetics, like if they want to look pretty and they want to be skinny, they'll probably eat little tastes of things and they'll probably have low calorie beverages. They won't partake in drinking, but they'll eat their taste of their foods because that's how they are. If they are longevity and health and wellness and very aware of where food comes from and high fructose corn syrup and things like that, they also might bring their own food. But they also will probably partake and just realize they're going to write that meal off and they'll do better tomorrow. They did better this morning. They did better at lunch. And this meal is just a fun meal and they're not going to really guilt themselves or feel bad about it. So we've got kind of like three different ways to partake in things nutrition wise.
Are there any big do's, such as drinking water before meals, or maybe eating fruits and vegetables before going to a party, that you might be concerned that you might overeat at? Those are some of the things that I remember from doing some research.
Yeah, so we like the acid in our stomach to digest our food. So if you overhydrate, sometimes you'll hear that a lot. People are like, drink a lot of water, then you won't want to eat the food. But then your food kind of sits in your stomach for forever and you feel even worse because you have no stomach acid. It's been diluted by all the water you put in there. So you want to drink a little bit of water, stay hydrated, but you can't get calories out of water. So if you fill up yourself with water and then now you're going to try and eat food, you're going to feel bad. If holidays or parties are a potluck, I always recommend that my clients or anybody else bring a healthy dish that you know and like. That way you at least have something to fall back on. I'm a big fan of fruits and vegetables. If you want to eat those before, anytime, whenever, if you want to start your meal with some fruit or start it with some vegetables, that's fine. Um, I don't think there's really a standard fits everybody because some people don't like fruits and vegetables. Some people have the willpower to be like, I'm not eating that, or I'm going to eat that because that's Nana's and she makes it. It's amazing. I'm eating it regardless. So just know yourself. And honestly, it's more emotional than anything. Like, don't guilt yourself because it's the holidays. We don't need it. So just eat the food, mark it off as a fun meal, and then move on. It's only one meal of your entire lifetime. Like, that's not going to make or break your weight loss journey, your performance journey, your nutrition, wellness, well-being journey. It's just a way to socialize. And you don't need to be the angry person in the corner mad because you can't eat the food there and now no one's socializing with you because you're mad about life. That's how I kind of partake nutrition at holidays, honestly.
I think that's great. And especially if you have somebody to share a dessert with you. So if you want a bite of the cake, but you don't want a piece of the cake, it's nice that you can share it with somebody. So that's another option that I've done in the past.
Absolutely. And then a lot of places that I go to have kind of like the small little desserts. So you don't have to get a giant piece of cake or pie or something because you've eaten so much of different varieties already. Now you can have a tiny sweet treat or something like that. I do recommend limiting alcohol. That is the one thing that I will say. Um, Alcohol is just empty calories. Our bodies don't like digesting it. It's not useful for us. So that's a way where calories can kind of sneak up on you quickly. Partaking in a lot of alcoholic beverages versus actually eating food. I'd rather you eat the piece of cake because there's probably eggs and flour and other things in it versus drinking the alcohol that's more sugar and alcohol calories than anything that's really nutritious for you.
Well, I'm lucky there because I'm not a drinker. So
Me neither.
I get an A+ on that one already. So
Yes.
that's good. So that's for the holidays. What things should people look for going into 2025 if they're somebody like me who's moderately active, I would say. I'm not an ultra athlete. I like to stay active, really flexible. I will be dropping my 2025 podcast most likely on New Year's Day, talking about what I'm looking to do into 2025. And part of that is number one is to have fun, to enjoy life, not be so strict on how many miles did I get in, or did I walk today, or what did I eat, and how many calories did I have. I want it to be fun, but realistic as well. Something else that's very important to me is core strength and flexibility. And those are things that I'm working with my coach, Derek Toshner, on to gain that, looking to you for nutrition. And what could somebody like me who wants to stay active, who wants to still do some good, solid workouts on a consistent basis, what could somebody like me or your average mom who has kids, your average dad, what do some of us non-pro athletes, what can we look forward to in 2025 to help us get through the year and still have a great year?
Yeah, I think, oh man, it's a loaded question, kind of. So it all depends on how wrapping it up into, you're looking for health, longevity, movement with pain-free, less chronic disease. You're just trying to be active, living your best life. You're not here for performance, but you do like to perform well. You want to make sure, staying hydrated. Number one, a lot of us are walking around as dehydrated house plants, and we just need fluid. Iced coffee is not fluid. That's probably one of my the biggest things that I see is people start their day with an iced coffee and they drink something else at tea. I'm in the South. We drink tea at lunch, and that is a water, sure, but we just don't drink enough water. Um, Now, you don't have to drink a gallon a day. We're not doing 75 hard. A lot of people don't need a gallon a day. But, a couple glasses, that's a start. Um, Looking at more protein sources is another big one. And that is a big one for women as we get older. I'm 40, almost 43, you're 55. We're looking at it now. We don't make muscle as easy as we did in our 20s, which would have been nice to know in my 20s. But we need exponentially more protein than I think a lot of the guidelines give us, especially if we're being active. So we're looking at probably 120 grams of protein a day, which if I ask most people, they're getting nowhere near it. We eat a lot of carbs for breakfast. We eat a lot of carbs for lunch. We eat a lot of carbs for dinner. We might have protein with dinner. That's usually where a lot of people have protein. And then they might have some with breakfast if they eat eggs. But we're looking at you've got to have protein way more consistently throughout the day. And that's not anything you have to count out in grams or you have to count out in weighing your food. It's just being more aware. I think the biggest thing for 2025 is awareness. Really deep diving into what's important. I think if you ask anyone on the planet and you ask them to move their body for 5 minutes a day, just like, hey, you're not moving at all, I need you to move for 5 minutes a day, most people would probably be like, boom, got it, not a big deal. If I ask people to eat one fruit and one vegetable for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they're never going to do it, which is the weirdest thing to me because it's so good for you to eat fruits and vegetables, and most of America doesn't eat a single vegetable throughout the day. But if you ask them to move their body for 5 more minutes a day, which is literally making time, I need you to find time in your day to move your body, they'll do it. They're like, yeah, boom, got it. Nobody can get a figure on nutrition. And it's because we have so much, I've never seen so much marketing for nutrition in my life, or air quotes nutrition, because what they're marketing really isn't food. It's a consumable. It's going to give you things, but it's really so processed and so just broken down from its original source that I think if more people tried to eat whole foods, not the store, but actual foods that are in their wholest kind of form, so more just raw or fresh fruits and vegetables, just moving towards that awareness of eating more of those, it's a great start. They are full of micronutrients. They are just full of fiber, which we don't need enough fiber. That's another thing for women in our age. Everyone in the United States should eat at least 25 grams of fiber a day. Again, you don't have to count, but just start thinking about where are you getting fiber from. We get it from fruits and vegetables. Again, we're not eating fruits and vegetables. And then looking at alcohol consumption, not a problem for you and I, but for a lot of people, I think there's a big movement towards sobriety and alternatives to alcohol. One thing I caution with those is that they're typically an increase of sugar consumption. So you're not getting the alcohol calories anymore, but now you're drinking a lot of the mixers and the fillers and sugary beverages. So just being aware that if you are going into a less alcoholic or a less alcohol consuming lifestyle to not then replace it with sugary beverages and fillers, because they're not as bad because they're not alcohol calories, but they're just as bad ish if you're looking for longevity and wellness and health for life. Because right now I'm 43ish, we'll go there. I need to know how I'm going to live in my 60s, in my 70s. I don't think enough people think that direction. While yes, we want to live in 2025 because we can get hit by a bus any day. I say that all the time. Everybody hates it. But we can. So, that 80-20 balance of, okay, being aware that I need to eat better foods. But if Nana comes over and she makes her amazing banana, pudding or something, you can have a little bit of it because that's your 20% or that's your 10%. But you're still going to do your other things to get better because you want to live longer than Nana and you want to live unassisted. You don't want to have a walker, or you don't want to have things like that. So it's a fine balance between living your life today and then thinking about retirement times. Very long.
And I am thinking about retirement times, and so are a lot of my other girlfriends that we have talks about. That is one of the things that actually started this whole movement for me probably 4 years ago, is getting better and healthier. And while my body might look the same as it was, I can tell you it's very different than what it was. But I'm still at, I would say, an incredibly early stage of getting toward optimization of what I really can do and to extend that life, that shelf life per se. And when I am retired, I do still want to go out and do things, and I do still want to hike, and I want to be able to be flexible and to reach for something on a shelf, or to squat and put pans away, or what have you. I want to still be able to do all of those things. And that's really what my why is for this whole journey that I've been on the past couple of years. So I do look forward to, I don't want to be in a hospital when I'm 70 years old. I want to be out there walking around every day and going for walks. And that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and I call that you're awake you're awake from the matrix. You're thinking about the input into your body and how it not only relates to your current state, but your future state. There's so many people that I feel are in well, you only live once, and so they're just gnawing down Christmas tree cakes, and they're like, I only get one body. And I'm like, you don't know when that body could be done. And then you don't think about it, like the Christmas tree cake you eat today, your cells have to do something with that. And if you don't give your cells like the things to build the walls with, like you can't build your body out of Christmas tree cakes. Like eventually you need something else. And so we're walking around and we can't see it because it's cellular, but cellular, we're not healthy. And we might look healthy, we might be moving and grooving and feeling fine. But then a lot of people, I ask them, like, how much are you bloated? How many times do you have stomach problems? This is a big one for dietitians. Are you pooping every day? People don't want to talk about it, but there's things that you can kind of look and be like, wow, I don't think I am as healthy. And that's what woke me up a while ago, is that I was eating so well, but my body was feeling like crap. And I was like, what's going on? Come to find out, I was eating something that I was super sensitive to, and it was just throwing my body all awry. And I'm like, oh, but since I was really checked into what I was consuming and how it was making me feel, I was aware. And I think a lot of people are walking around in not great feeling bodies, and they just don't know that you could feel better. They just think that that's how you're supposed to feel. And I would love to just take and shake and wake everybody up and be like, you don't have to be bloated every day. Like, you're supposed to poop every day. Like, your stomach shouldn't hurt all the time. Like, you shouldn't have brain fog. Like, yes, perimenopause people and menopause people, they have brain fog, but you shouldn't have it every day if you're like 12, or if you're early 20s. Like, there are things like you shouldn't have a migraine because your caffeine withdrawal or your sugar withdrawal or this and that. So there's a lot of things that are going on that if people just started looking internally to what they're consuming and how it's affecting their body, they would realize that they're walking in a broken body every day, in and out.
What would you say to somebody that poops once or twice a day, Does not have I don't know that I've ever felt bloated, so I don't even know what that feels like. Do not have stomach problems typically. Um, Somebody like me who I feel great most of the time, but I know that I can do so much better. What would you say to somebody like that who actually is out there and who does feel great and who does poop on a regular basis? And my girlfriends will say, "Oh my God, I'm so bloated today." And I was like, I don't know what that even feels like. I mean, maybe I've been bloated, but I don't know what that feels like. Or what would you just say to somebody like that on the other end of the spectrum that I feel great. How could I feel any better?
Yeah, I mean, so if your body feels well, then you start looking at, what are you trying to get out of it? So you already said you're trying to get like longevity, like you are thinking about the future. So you feel well now, that's fantastic. Keep it up. Then we start looking at, okay, you're active. Are you wanting to perform better? So you feel great. Do you want to be better than you currently are? So then we start tweaking things for more that performance. So there's three buckets of people: performance people, longevity people, kind of aesthetic people. So we don't have to play in that bucket solely, but a lot of people do. And so you're already feeling great and doing well. Then we're like, okay, well, do you want to do your 5Ks faster? Do you want to squat heavier? What would you like to go from there? Or are you content just feeling great? And looking towards the future for longevity. We've mentioned we need a little bit of weight loss. So it's like, okay, then we start playing with those numbers. Are we looking for aesthetics? Are we looking for performance? And then kind of tweaking those from there. And it could just be, and this is the sad state of affairs, is the quality of food. So our vegetables today, this is all a deep dive of tangents. Vegetables today aren't as nutritious as they were 20 years ago. We've destroyed our soil. We do a lot of random things to things. Your freshest, your best fruits and vegetables are honestly your frozen or your canned, because your frozen or your canned are picked when they're the ripest or they have the most nutrients. They're flash frozen or they're, canned very quickly, so they hold their nutrients. Anyone shopping from a giant grocery store, your fruits and vegetables traveled probably thousands of miles to get to you. So the best course of action is to start looking at your fruits and vegetables, your fresh food, and seeing if you can get them at like a farmer's market where you can actually talk to your farmers, learn about the pesticides they use or the insect prevention, learn about how they handle their soil. Is it regenerative farming? Are they putting nutrients back into the soil? What are their cattle eating? What are their birds eating? That's where we start looking into quality of food and seeing if there's ways that we can improve your nutrient intake with just some swaps of some key foods you eat on a regular basis. It gets really nerdy and really sciencey.
I'd like to go back to the case that you were talking about, maybe the ladies or gentlemen that have the bloating or that do have issues with bowel movements, or they just feel sluggish or brain fog. What types of things can you do if they worked with you or in general to start looking at what could I do differently so I don't feel bloated, so I don't have stomach pain? Where would you start with those types of people?
The most hated thing of all is a food journal. Everyone hates it because they're like, I have to write down. I'm like, everything that goes in your mouth. If you put the eraser in your mouth, I need to know. Like, if you walk by Linda's desk and grab 3 Hershey Kisses, then those need to get written down. So with a lot of my clients that come to me for issues with that, we really dive into their food journals. We dive in, and it can be as comprehensive as, I need to know that you ate 2 eggs at 6 a.m. I used some butter, da 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 da, and then I felt this. So they are writing down times, amounts, quantities, everything that goes in their mouth, and then they're writing down any kind of feeling they have throughout the day. So if they're like, felt great, felt like crap, really got bloated, migraine. So we start looking at things like that and then start trying to find a pattern. I found out that if I eat a lot of carbs at dinner, my sleep score is terrible. So we can start even looking at things like that, where you're now putting together sleep quality and maybe stress in your life and trying to see how food affects that. It's wild. People never put any of these things together. And if you go to a regular doctor, they're not going to put any of this together for you either. They barely have any nutrition qualifications, and they don't like to refer to dietitians for some reason, even though it's our entire career. But it's fine. No tangent there. But that's what we do. We start doing a food recall, and then we start doing really deep diving into foods, qualities, amounts, and then symptoms. And if the bloating is their worst symptom, then we start looking at the times of the day, and the foods they've eaten around there, to start eliminating things. We'll do a really easy elimination diet. We won't take everything out. We'll take the one that we think is the culprit, see how that feels. If things improve, that's great. If things don't improve, we start deep diving again. But they're going to journal for a long time, and they're not going to like it. But I mean, we've seen it. We improve their symptoms. Sometimes it's a food that they're sensitive to. So I also do the MRT, food sensitivity test. So we can do a blood draw and see if there are foods that you are super red and super sensitive about. And then we do an elimination diet. And so if you're constantly getting migraines, or if you're constantly bloated, or if you're not pooping, the pooping one is usually a fiber thing, usually. But sometimes it's just, if you don't eat enough bulk, you're not going to move anything through.
A
So
trend that you've seen working with clients is you've already mentioned fiber. Are there any other trends that your clients are really surprised about? Like, we're all adults. You work with adults, I'm assuming. Maybe you work with pediatrics too, but I would think, is there something that you tell your clients or you and your clients discover together and they just think, oh my gosh, I've been living this life for 30, 40, 50 years and I never knew XYZ? I mean, is there anything that strikes you with your clients that they're just amazed at after all these years?
um the most amazement I get from a lot of people is they don't realize how much they eat and don't remember, or like don't think about. So I will be like, okay, you were at work all day. Did you eat anything else besides actually going to lunch? And they're like, oh yeah, I had this granola bar because I was in the coffee room and da 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 da. And so they don't realize all these little foods that they don't think anything about when they're just walking by, or condiments, sauces. Everyone, the amount of peanut butter in a serving, like it's it's insulting how small a serving as peanut butter is, and none of my clients eat one serving of peanut butter. And so that's when I'm actually like, "Hi, this is a serving." And they're like, "Oh, that's not what I eat." And I'm like, "Yeah, you probably eat like a quarter cup of peanut butter, don't you?" And they're like, yeah." I'm like, "All right." So things like that that sneak up on them, that's been kind of the big one. Fiber is always a good one because people are like, I realize I don't eat fiber at all. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And then protein. Protein, I think, has been the biggest one because people think that they eat a lot of protein. And then when I have people, my women, we always start off, I'm like, when you start thinking about protein, you're going to start just trying to aim for 80 grams a day. And every single one of them comes back and says 80 grams was so hard. And I'm like, they just they don't consume it. They just Sometimes people don't even have protein with lunch. You're lucky if you get protein with breakfast. We do have a great amount of sources out there now that, we have ready to drink shakes. Fairlife has a 42-gram elite protein shake, which is great if you're not worried about things like microplastics, but whatever. You eat anything out of plastic, you're going to get microplastics. That's just it. If you eat anything out of plastic, a microplastic is going to come with it. Eventually, we're all going to be made out of plastic. It's fine. It's not fine, but it's another tangent. But there are things that are there and available to get higher sources of, or higher amounts of protein in. Even yogurt. Yogurt is my biggest nemesis because people eat it and they think it's healthy. And I'm like, yogurt flips are the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, there's no reason to have a high sugar yogurt and then flip in more candy into it and think you're eating a healthy breakfast. That's not even remotely healthy. Yogurt is only healthy for you if it's got some live cultures in it and it has close to 20 grams of protein. Most of the yogurts on the shelf are just sugar, and you're going to be hungry in 2 seconds because they don't have any cultures in them. They don't have any protein in them. They're just sugar. Sometimes they're a little fat. Sometimes there's no fat. So I really aim for most of my clients, if they're going to do yogurt, we're doing the Oikos Pro, which has like 20. If you just get, I think, vanilla, 23, and then like the Greek plain is like 25 grams, but you really got to like no flavor if you like that. But there's ways to get protein in now that I think a lot of people didn't get in before. So nutrition's evolving, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a very bad way.
Let's switch topics and go to maybe little snacks or holdovers for people that are traveling, because that has been a problem for me in the past, and I didn't realize what I was grabbing wasn't great until I started realizing what I was grabbing wasn't great and realized the alternatives. But sometimes I think we don't always think about the alternatives when we're traveling.
Yes, traveling is a big one. I wrote an article about traveling and nutrition a couple of years ago, I feel. Um, I fly a lot. I'm traveling a lot. I'm always in the car, driving everywhere I go. I have a lunchbox. Actually, I have a cooler. I just brought it home with me this today. So I have a cooler with me. In my cooler, I usually have a protein shake. I have I have the beef sticks. Paleo Valley. My gosh. I have Paleo Valley beef sticks in there. I have usually the Oikos drinkable shakes, the protein shakes, the little tiny things. Um, I have those. I usually have fruits. I have not a lot of vegetables, if on all honesty. Sometimes I have vegetables, but sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to eat carrots in the middle of my car. But a lot of times, if you're traveling on the road trips or in airports, you can find things like hard-boiled eggs. They've gotten a lot better in that. I think we've all gone to a gas station where it kind of has that little roulette kind of thing in the front where you're like, what is all these weird cold sandwiches? I wouldn't recommend eating the cold sandwiches all the time, but they usually have fruit cups, they have hard-boiled eggs, they have really great things that you can grab and not go down the candy aisle. I will say a lot of gas stations I've gone into now have like a protein bar section. So for people who do like the sweet things, they have the Lenny and Larry's protein cookies. That's one I've gotten before. I think the Fit Crunch bars are out. Now these things, you have to define your own version of healthy, because I'm sure they have something in them because they're processed, but they're higher in protein than a Snickers bar or anything like that. So you kind of make your choices. Like, let's say you are craving a candy bar, you can go get the Fit Crunch bar. It's going to give you a lot more protein than the Snickers bar. That's the same thing for the Lenny's and Larry's cookies. People who are like, I really want a cookie. I'm like, here you go. Here's a nice peanut butter cookie. It has protein. Eat half of it. And there are, salads. Theirs are available all the time, everywhere. Everywhere I go, there's a salad. We don't want to cover it in cheese, and we don't want to cover it in a lot of dressing. We don't want to bathe the salad in the dressing. That's, I think people are like, I'm eating a salad. And by the time they've got three different pieces or three different versions of cheese on there and a gallon of dressing, it's like you might as well have just eaten a quarter pounder because it's going to have other nutrients than salad dressing. So I go to Starbucks. There's one everywhere. The egg bites are great. If you're just looking for protein sources, you don't want a lot of carbohydrates, get you a black drip coffee or a cold brew and eat you some egg bites. They're basically everywhere. Every airport I go to has a Freshens. I always get a Freshens protein peanut butter smoothie. Like, there are things where I'm just like, these are my go-tos when I'm traveling, if I need something quick and if I have to run through the airport and I can't chew.
Smoothies are it. I've been using Re-Up. I don't know if you have heard of Re-Up. It is a smoothie in a pouch and 12 grams of protein and Yeah, I love them. So I have them with me all the time in chomps. So I
Oh,
don't, yeah,
yes.
I don't know if those are good or bad, but I like them. So I have those too.
I mean, and that's where it's like, there's no, you can say good and bad, and it's like, bad for who? Bad
Right.
in what way? Like, sure, there are foods that contain toxins. We don't want to eat those. But what level of toxin? Like that's where you see people that eat the Christmas tree cakes and they're just like, I got one life, I'm living it. So if chomps are your advice, or if things like that are like it's bad, it's not really bad, and it's not like you're eating them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's balances, and it's all, what is your goal? Like my performance people, we're slapping Christmas tree cakes out of their hand. They're not doing that. Everybody else, live your life, boo. And I can't slap things out of your hand unless I live at your house. So eat your Christmas tree cake or don't, or eat your chomps or eat this. And no food is good or bad unless it's toxic or you're allergic to it. Don't eat the food you're allergic to. That's the other thing. Those are the only bad foods.
I was thinking bad as in processed.
And there are people, you'll see people who eat nothing but processed foods and they live till they're 101. So you're kind of like, what level is processed? And if you think about, everything is processed unless it's a whole fruit or a whole vegetable, because you're not chomping down on the butt of a cow. It's got to get processed. Ultra processed and ultra like where this isn't even food anymore, vitamins are getting sprayed on things. That's where we're talking about like, how great is this for you? But again, now we have microplastics everywhere. So it's like, what battle do we battle today? That's where the field of nutrition is. It's like we're consuming things that aren't even really food. We had a study come out earlier this year where it was like Lucky Charms were better than beef and eggs and fish. And you're like, make it make sense. And it's because they fortified the Lucky Charms. They stripped all the nutrients from them to make the Lucky Charms, and then they sprayed everything back on and called it fortified. And now it's healthier because it has balanced nutrition versus just one macro or two macros. And I'm like, this is the country we live in today, where Lucky Charms is healthier than beef and chicken and eggs. And so that's where it's like there's so much information out there that my lovely self has to dissect and has to fight back for my clients. They send videos all the time. They're like, is this real? And I'm like, please get off the internet. Um, so it's like everyone's an expert, but then our own government makes studies like that.
Yeah, that I've seen some of those studies
Mhm.
come out. Yeah.
Yeah.
The last phase that I wanted to talk about was vacations. And it seems like we've really hit that because we've talked about you can make good choices. You can have the 20% of maybe this meal isn't great, but I'm only having it. I'm on vacation. I'm indulging a little bit and I'm going to get back to a more balanced lifestyle after vacation. Any thoughts on vacation?
Yeah, vacations are great. I mean, they're not a time we want to be stressed about eating. I love staying places that have refrigerators or, a way to heat up anything, whether it be a microwave or a stove, because that way you can go buy your own food for at least some of your meals. Because I've noticed, anywhere you go, a lot of times breakfast is heavy carbs. We talked earlier. I stayed at a hotel last night. Breakfast this morning was like carbs, 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 some powdered eggs. And I was like, no, thank you. I'm going to go get some food somewhere else. Or I usually bring my own, but I forgot to bring my Creatures of Habit oatmeal with me. So that was a fail on my part because I just got done talking about traveling. But if you can find ways to make some of your own foods, that's fantastic. Because listen, this little fluffy girl loves I love a good buffet, especially if I'm in a foreign country where they're like, here, eat all like the Jamaican food. Yes, ma'am. We're eating all the random food because we're in Jamaica. When are we going to be here again when actual Jamaicans are making Jamaican food? I'm not going to eat some Americanized version of it. I'm going to eat the food. And I'm probably going to be active on vacation too. I'm probably going to move my body. I'm probably going to go swim in the ocean or do something, or maybe I'm going to be lazy and I'm just going to enjoy myself, because that's fantastic as well. We don't need to be running around to counteract the three patties I just ate on the Jamaican buffet. I don't have to go run that off. It's just that's what happens. I'm going to make smart choices with hydration. I'm going to make a little bit of my own breakfast or my own lunch, carry my own granola bars with me or protein bars. I am that person who will travel with my own protein bars and random labeled bags of powders. So that happens. TSA is usually fine with me. But vacations are vacations. They're not for stress. But yes, you can still be healthy on them. You can make good choices. You can write off that one meal as whatever and just have a good time. And then when you get back to the grind, you just get back to the grind.
Tell us about Mud Runner Chick. I have been following you on Instagram for, I believe it's maybe 2.5 years, but you have quite the extensive athletic prowess behind you. Let's talk about that with our listeners because I'm always amazed at all the different events that you're doing. And especially what's coming up in 2025. You gave me a quick preview the other day, and I just think it's remarkable. So let's talk about that. And then, how did nutrition get into your activity or your athleticism, or were you athletic and you realized that you needed the nutrition piece to it? So tell us your start and your journey on that.
So my origin story. All right.
Yeah, your
So
origin story.
I have been an athlete since I was 4. I started off with t-ball, moved quickly into softball, played softball all the way up until high school. I had added volleyball and basketball in there as well. Um, and if you'll notice, none of that is running. I hated running for all of eternity. I would hit the ball far enough to not have to run. I would be the queen of what should be an infield homer, and I would be on third, being like, no, I'm good here. I hated running. So everyone's always amazed that now I run ultras. They're like, I don't understand. I was like, don't worry, I don't either. It's fine. College, I went to college to be an athletic trainer. I had wanted to be an athletic trainer most of my life since watching Penn State football with my dad as a small human, all the way up until everything. I was going to be an athletic trainer. No offense, I love my athletic trainer friends. They're fantastic. Athletic trainers get used and abused and they work 7 days a week. And I was like, no, ma'am, not doing that. So one of my projects in athletic training was to write the rehab plan for an athlete. And I completely forgot about nutrition. And I don't really think I forgot about nutrition. We didn't really get told much about nutrition in the rehab agenda. So she was like, nutrition question mark. And I wanted to be like, nutrition question mark. But that's when I felt the need to go in for my master's for nutrition. So I have a undergrad in athletic training and a master's in nutrition. I never wanted to work in a hospital, but I was a NICU dietitian for quite some time, which is a neonatal ICU dietitian. So the smallest of the small, the most critical patients on the planet. I'm just really good with math. And they don't throw things or talk back to you. So it was really easy to work with that population. And I still was always passionate about wellness. So I played softball in high school. I walked onto the team in college and walked promptly back off. That was not the life for me. My degree was going to be too busy anyway, so I didn't want to just never go to bed. So I just committed to athletic training, and that was that. And that was the end of my softball career. And I got into running in 2007. I signed up with Team in Training to run my first half marathon in 2008. So I have only been running consistently and competitively since 2008, which sounds
So,
not long ago, but then also sounds very long ago. And
so
so,
you just went right into a half marathon instead of a 5K or a 10K?
kind of.
Yeah, okay.
So
You're my kind of people. Why
I
start low? Just go right for it.
Yeah, I think I had run. Yeah, no, honestly, no, I hadn't. No, I thought that having a half marathon would commit me to doing the thing. Like I didn't, I think I felt that a 5K wasn't big enough. I think it was more like I need to do something big. I was also in the middle of kind of a relationship. Like it was just like I need an outlet. I've got to escape. Um, so I got into running and I said it had to be a half marathon. And then I ended up coaching for team and training following that. So that was really fun to get people to run half marathons and marathons for an amazing organization which supports the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So I've always been like fundraising with athletics. So I've done a lot of things with that. I don't know why I'm not that great at either. But I like to fundraise. So I ran a ton of half marathons. I think I was addicted like a crackhead after that for a while. That's where a lot of these are from, is just half marathons. And then in 2010, I got into obstacle course racing, which is the birth of Mud Runner Chick. Um, and this was back when you didn't pay $100 to run a Spartan. There wasn't a shower. There wasn't a changing tent. You basically finished and you were covered in dirt and they were like deuces. And you were like, wait a minute. I am dirty. So that was back in the good old days. And so I raced in OCRs for until
What's an O
2014.
what's an OCR?
Obstacle course race. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so I raced those for a while to 2013, and then I went to triathlons.
Because why not?
Well, I had moved to the Panhandle of Florida, and the beauty of the Panhandle of Florida is our beaches are magnificent. The down part is where we can't fly to anywhere conveniently. So there are no obstacle course racing anywhere near us. So it became a little burdensome to try to do OCRs. I had a bunch of friends going into triathlons. I said, why not? I ended up doing an Ironman, a full Ironman in 2017, promptly retired the next day. And then in 2019, I ran my first 50K. Yeah. I
And
thought
20 and
I thought you would
29029, right?
do what?
And 29029.
That was in 2021. I had signed up for 29029 in October of 2019. That was again another relationship fiasco in July. So I was like, I need to refresh and rebrand and become somebody new. So I signed up for 29029, and then COVID happened and we did everything virtual. And then I finally got to climb my mountain in 2021. Took a while, but I finally got there. But yeah, so I've had quite the evolution of athletics. I really thought that you would need way less things with ultra running, but it turns out you need a lot of things with ultra running.
Tell us about that. I'm interested in your ultra running. I am not interested in ultra running. I mean, I'm barely hopefully going to get the half marathon next November, but tell us about ultra running because I follow a lot of ultra runners. I am so inspired by ultra runners. Tell us about it.
It is the best community, hands down. Everyone wants you to do well, which is completely different, I feel, from the road running community, because I was in the road running community for quite some time, and every now and then I still go and run a road half marathon. I hate road marathons, but I will do them, especially Marine Corps Marathon. I really love that one. But I always get so mad because road runners will just chunk their trash, and I'm just, why? Like there's a trash can, or just hold on to it. I mean, if you ever saw the backpack of an ultra runner, it is like a trash panda. We have so much garbage because we don't litter the trails, but a road runner can't hang on to a gel for a half mile to throw it away in a trash can. So that's the ultra running community is just, it's rad. I love it so much because everyone wants to bring everyone into the community. They don't care. Like I would gladly be like, Robin, let's go run a trail. You're gonna love it. You're gonna be like a crackhead. It's gonna be great. Everyone is so supportive, even if you're battling it out for like placement. Everyone is supportive. There's high fives. Courtney DeWalter is amazing and she's so down to earth. I love talking to her because she's just like, yeah, let's go do it. And you're like, I can't run that fast, but okay, let's go.
I've followed her for probably a good 2 to 3 years as well. I'm always watching her.
She's fantastic and she's so humble. Like we ran together at Running Man last year when she was there and she thought it was the coolest thing. Oh, I forgot. I'm a yoga instructor. My gosh. She thought it was the coolest thing that I was getting my yoga certification because she's like, yoga is so hard. And I was like, what? I was like, you run 100 miles in less time than I do for a 50 miler. So no, but she's just really cool. And that's the whole community. Like they don't care if you're last. In fact, if you're last, you usually get some kind of award sometimes. They're like, DFL, let's go. Um, it's just a really cool place to be. And everyone supports everybody. And there's from backyard ultras to really high caliber events where that's Milestone is one of the higher caliber 100 miler events. It's bougie, it's food catering, it's massages, it's all the good things, and it's a very lengthy time limit. So it's a really, you were probably going to try and segue into this, but I did it for you. It's a really great starting point for anyone who's interested in a 100 miler or increasing their or PRing their distance and are scared of time limits on races, because most of your races, there's a rarity where you see a 40-hour time limit for a 100 miler. Most of them are 36 or less. And that's due to like permits on the courses. It's really not the race directors. It's usually permits that whatever they're permitted with don't want people out either at certain hours or on the course for that long. They don't want to have the courses blocked off for that long. So people are working within constraints of their permit times.
Interesting. So you were telling me that you are going to be coaching in 2025. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so milestone events is we have 100 milers. Last year we debuted with 100 miler at Zion Ponderosa Ranch Resort. So it's it's a 10-mile loop that you can run as many times as you want with a goal of 100 miles if that is your goal. Or we had quite a few people that wanted to run their longest distance. And the beauty of this course is that it starts at 6 a.m. on Thursday and you have until Saturday at 6 p.m. to finish. So you can run 10 miles, you can come back and get a snack, you can change shoes, you can go to the massage therapist, you can run 10 miles and then go right back out and just constantly just run. You can treat it like a timed event. If you want to run for time, you can just run until you're done with your 100 miles. Or you can chunk it into different buckets and run 3 to 4 laps on day 1, 3 to 4 laps on day 2, 3 to 4 laps on day 3, and treat it kind of like a trail fest. So it's amazing. The experience was incredible. When I was coaching it last year, we had athletes, I did laps with them and they kept apologizing for being slow. And I was like, girl, what am I going to do? I got nothing but air and opportunity out here. Let's go. I'm just here to get you one more lap. We're going to get it. Talked about breathing, the importance of, really pacing themselves and foot placement on trails because we're climbing up, we're going back down. A really nice community. You got to meet people from everywhere, from Canada, from here. And it's beautiful in that it's bougie. So it is pricier than a lot of other events, but you have massage therapists who were magnificent, like could work on any part of your body and just gave you all the time in the world. And they weren't like, all right, get out of here. It wasn't just a really quick like massage, like, okay, you ran, yada, yada. They really worked on you. You had medics to tape you up. You had volunteers that were incredible out there at all hours of the night for 60 hours, not on end. They went to bed. We're not that mean. But you had volunteer support. You had, the resort was out there watching us. There's even little goats around that resort. So you're like, hello.
I'm into goats.
Yeah, it's a really great little environment to be out there. And it's beautiful. We were at Zion. This year we're going to Zion again. We're going to the Redwoods. And then we're going to have a trail fest at Mount Hood Gorge, I believe. So that's our last event. So we have 3 this year, 3 opportunities. Registration for the 100 miler, both 100 milers just opened. And you can come and run as much as little as you want. So if you want to do 80, you can do 80. You get awards for the distance you completed. So we had quite a few people run 100K that have never run anything over a 50K. So they
That's
doubled their
very cool.
distance. It was beautiful. And then getting to share that experience with them and getting them one more lap was just, I loved it.
So not only do you do nutrition coaching, you also do running coaching.
Yes.
Same sites to get a hold of you for running
Yes.
coaching?
Yes. So I do running coaching and I can also do all the strength training as well. So if you are a running client of mine, you will get strength training. It does not do 100% running because if you just run constantly, you will break yourself. I believe you fully need strength training, you need flexibility, you probably need some yoga. So you get really like well-rounded training with me. So
That's awesome. What events are you going to be participating in now that we've talked about what you're coaching?
yeah. So I laughed at this earlier because someone else asked me what I have next on the calendar. And I actually have a Molten Mohawk 9 miler in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which everyone's like, what? But I went to school in Hattiesburg. I'm a Southern Miss graduate. So my parents are in the coast of Mississippi. So this is a 9 miler where there's a glass blowing studio. So they give you a handmade glass blown metal. So it's a really rad little environment. It's at a Christmas tree farm. So it's just kind of like out in the country of Mississippi. So I'm doing a 9 miler. And then I will be going back to Marine Corps Marathon the last weekend of October because it's the 50th anniversary. So that'll be my fourth time to run that event. So that's, I think, the only two I have on the calendar for this year right now because I'm really dedicated to coaching Milestone. And then people will see me at 29 or 29 in Mont Tremblant. I'll be up there with some folks. And yeah, just dedicating my 2025 to my clients, really.
Is there anything that you want my listeners to know about that we haven't talked about already?
Oh, man. I mean, there's lots of things. Honestly, I'm like, don't overcomplicate life. Like nutrition is so simple when you look at it. Like when you just, it's fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, lean protein. There you go. Like if you can just stay to close to those confounds, then you're pretty decent. You're doing pretty well. If those are the buckets you eat out of, and then move your body. Like 7,000 steps or more. I mean, you're in the 10,000 step challenge. I love that we're doing that in December because this is the time when people just kind of shut down because it's getting weird weather. Here in the South, we're like, why is it 40 degrees? What's going on? Me, I love it because I can run in this. I'm like, this is amazing. But everyone else in
We're
Florida,
we're at 8 right now.
oh no, mm-mm.
Yeah.
I think I'd put on clothes for that. I think I'd have to wear like long sleeves. Right now I'm like, no. But move your body more, just a little bit more, and just eat a little bit better. Like that's how easy it is to start. And don't wait until January. Like you can start right now, right now, right now. Like tonight, you can make dinner better. Tomorrow, you can have breakfast better. You can walk a little bit more tomorrow than you did today. That's a success. Like we don't have to go leaps and bounds to see success. We can just do tiny little increments. And then by the end of 2025, you're going to be like, who is this magnificent person? She's amazing because you did all those little changes. So do not wait to make small, tiny changes because they definitely add up. That was a very long ta-da.
I liked the ta-da. I think it was great. If somebody wanted to work with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Sure. I'm on Facebook. Facebook is just Mud Runner Chick. Instagram, I am MRC Nutrition and Wellness is my business page, but you can also look for Mud Runner Chick and find her. She's everywhere. And then my website is mrcnutritionandwellness.com. That is where you can actually apply to work with me. You'll fill out a questionnaire, or you can always DM me and I can fill out questionnaires. Or no, I'm not filling out the questionnaire for you. Nope. I will send you the questionnaire to fill out to work with me because sometimes we're not a great fit. Sometimes you're looking for something way above or way beyond, or you're too particular with what you eat, or maybe our personalities don't work well. So I really like people to apply and be honest with their goals in the application. Sometimes people just don't have the time commitment, and so it's not a perfect time to work together. So I really like to have an application. I don't just want to be like, I'm going to take your money, see you for 3 months, and then be like, goodbye. I really want things to work, and I want to be able to gel together and have those 3 months to really focus on plans and get patterns set in place.
Thank you, Kim, for coming on. Definitely appreciate it. So for all of my listeners, I will be working with Kim in 2025. I am going to wait till February, though. We have some things on the docket, but I will get in with Kim, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. I will definitely keep you all on my journey with Kim throughout the year. Kim, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I loved it. I really like In with Kim. I like
In with
that.
Kim. Well, you might have to be in addition to 2025.
I was like, you
In
just said that, and I was like, In with Kim. I like this.
I like it too. For all of my listeners, stay awesome and keep reaching for your anything.